Okay, guys, here is the first course I'm going to cover in the capital raising. There's a lot going on in capital raising, and so I need to break it down into smaller pieces to help you understand what's going on. The first thing I want to talk about is this idea of the marketing funnel. And when I first started in capital raising or in apartment investing and I went to raise capital, I had no idea of this concept of the marketing funnel. And basically what you're doing in the marketing funnel is you have someone over here who you want to get over here into your deal. And you have to understand that they need to move through a funnel. Because right now, maybe they're not even aware of who you are. And if they're not aware of who you are, they haven't seen any of your content, and if they haven't seen any of your content, then they don't know who you are. They don't have the opportunity to know, like, and trust you. And if they don't know, like, and trust you, then you can't give them a specific call to action. You can't give them the conversion opportunity to invest with you. And what we're trying to do is take this person A, and get them over into person B so they know who you are. They have been able to consume some of your content. And once they know who you are and they've consumed some of your content, they know, they like, and they trust you, which means then you can give them a call to action and you can convert them into someone who will invest with you. So what does that look like? What is the marketing funnel? There are lots of different versions of the marketing funnel, but at its core, all of them have at least these 4 steps. I think this is probably the most distilled version. So I'm going to walk through each of these and give you some examples so that you can understand how and why the marketing funnel is so important. Because really everything you do when it comes to raising capital, it ties back to something in the marketing funnel. Think of these like layers of a cake, if you will. And each layer, there's something different that you're doing to move someone where you want them to be. So to say that a little bit different, you have to, in order to, you have to do something to get someone into the top of this funnel. And then once they're in the top of the funnel, you have to tell them that you want them to go to the next piece of the funnel. Once they're here, you nurture them a little bit, and then you tell them to go to the next piece of the funnel. And then once they're here for a while, you tell them to go to the next piece of the funnel. And there's ways that you do that. So let's go through the different layers of this marketing funnel. The first is awareness. And this is, you have to think of awareness as, think of it like as somebody who doesn't know you at all. Think of a commercial that maybe you see on TV. There's a new brand, there's a new brand selling coffee or soda or a new airline, something, it doesn't really matter what it is, but something. So you have to become aware of, you have to be known to someone else. Someone has to be aware of who you are. And once someone becomes aware of you, then they have to make a decision of, do they want to learn more about you? So there's efforts you put into the top of the funnel to not only make people aware, but make them want to learn more about you. And that's where you move into interest. And so then in interest, this is where you begin to nurture people. And the best way to do this is through different types of content. And this will be, social media. This might be videos you create. This might be, ebooks or something like that you create. But it's not until they're actually warmed up to the idea of you, that they've seen some of your information. They like, oh, okay, this is starting to make sense, to where you even have the opportunity to convert them. And the conversion, this is where they make a decision to hand their money over to you. And that is the capital raising right there. And that's really break it down into these 3 steps. And then the loyalty phase, this is once you've got somebody who's been investing with you, and that's the opportunity to get them to do referrals for you. And that's where you can grow your ability to even raise more capital. So in a subsequent training, I'm gonna break down, there's basically 4 quadrants where you can find people. I'm not getting into that here. I'm just gonna hang out in the marketing funnel. So, all right, let's talk about this some more. What are some examples of awareness? And I'm gonna use the idea of a webinar, because a lot of people think I'm gonna run a webinar and I'm gonna get investors. And so the question I like to ask people when they're saying, hey, I'm going to run a webinar and I'm going to get new signups, I'm going to get emails. Well, let's think about that for a second. So if you schedule a webinar and you host a webinar, is that actually part of the awareness? Is it top of funnel? And the answer is no, it's not. Just by the nature of the fact that you created a webinar and you opened it up for people to register for it, that is actually not awareness. The awareness would be, and it's not even the email campaign, because if you have people in your database, they already know who you are. They're already aware of who you are. So a webinar in and of itself is generally more of this stage of interest. This is getting the audience interested with your content. So if you have a webinar and you're sending out an email, hey, show up to my webinar, that is not the awareness phase. This is you're warming people up. You're continuing to warm them up. You're showing them that you're a subject matter expert and that this is the right investment vehicle for them. Awareness, I like to think of this actually more as an ad, if you will. Now, you don't have to run ads at all in this phase. It definitely helps. Organic growth in social media is very challenging, but the awareness is, think of it like you put a post on social media, and you know how you can look on social media and you can say, well, is it people that already follow me or is it people that don't follow me? If it's people that aren't following you, now all of a sudden they're being made aware. And so think of driving down the freeway and seeing a billboard, and you see that new coffee shop that opened up, for example, on the billboard. You are now aware of them. So the webinar in and of itself is not awareness. If you post that you're running a webinar on social media, it has the potential for awareness. Now, if you take that post and you turn it into an ad, and that ad is targeted to people who don't already follow you, that is absolutely awareness. So awareness is really getting people to know who you are. Now, I'm gonna add a little bit to that. Awareness can be, if it's somebody who already knows who you are, so your family, your friends, they may already know who you are, but the awareness may be making them aware that you are doing multifamily investing, making them aware that you have an investment opportunity for them. So there is a couple different ways to look at that, but a lot of awareness when it comes to capital raising is once you go through your family and friends, how do you make more people aware of you? And that's a lot of that is through social media. It could be a networking event. It could be publishing articles and getting more eyes on there. But anyways, that's awareness. So you think to yourself, Steven, that's great. Now what? People are aware of me. So on each of these, you have to give a call to action that basically says, I want you to go from here into here. So now I'm going to use the example of maybe a post that you have on social media, and maybe it's even a pin post. So you have a pin post and it says, hey, if you are a busy corporate professional and you're trying to save more for retirement, then follow me, something like that. Or, hey, I'm doing a webinar this coming Thursday. It's about alternative investments, and you're running that, and you're sending that to people who, or you're hoping people see it that aren't aware of you. So then your call to action is join my webinar, or follow me, or do something. I want you, now that you're aware of me, I want you to pay attention to me. So why is that important? Because in the content you're going to be creating to try to get more eyeballs on you, you need to always have a call to action. So you're going to have a call to action when someone's aware of you. It's going to move them down into this phase. Hey, I want you to pay attention to me because I have more things for you to consume. I want to warm you up. So let's use this concept of a webinar, staying on that. So let's say you have that webinar and you've done some post for it, and you've got some people to see that didn't already know who you were, and you're saying, hey, look at me, here I am, here's a problem I can solve for you. Now I want you to come to my webinar. Okay, at this phase, your webinar is definitely warming people up, and it can be a lot of different things. It can be a case study, it can be a how-to. There's a lot of different things your webinar can be, content-wise, to warm people up. And nurture them. So great, Stephen. Okay, so now I've got people who have attended my webinar and I've got their email address. So you have their email address, you can continue to send them emails and continue to nurture them. But whatever it is you're doing, you have to get them into this phase. You can warm them up and warm them up and warm them up. But if people just leave the webinar and say, hey, that was a great webinar, I learned a lot, and you don't tell them what you want them to do, you're not going to get them to this conversion phase. And this conversion phase is where you start having those one-on-one conversations and you explain to people in more detail, this is what apartment investing looks like, and this is what it would look like for you, and would you like to invest? So in this interest phase right here, once again, you have to do another CTA or a call to action that moves them into here. So what that would look like would be at the end of your webinar, you would say, hey, for those of you that are ready to invest, for those of you that would like to learn more, I want you to schedule a call with me. So in this marketing funnel, what I want you to understand, I'm going to go back to this and you're going to hear me say this a lot, is you have to be aware of these layers of the cake, of the layers of the marketing funnel. And it's not enough to just say, I'm doing these things for awareness, I'm doing these things for interest, I'm doing these things for conversion. You have to have a call to action that moves people through the funnel. So just to recap really quick where we're at. So awareness would be, I've got a post for my upcoming webinar. And I'm trying to either A, get people who have never seen me before to get eyeballs on my post and get them interested. Or B, maybe there's people who already know me, but they didn't know I was in apartment investing. And I want those people to be made aware of that. Now, getting them to attend the webinar, say, hey, so you're saying, hey, here I am. I'm a multifamily investor. I help people passively invest in apartment investing. Come to my webinar. That is your call to action. Come to my webinar. I'm going to share these things with you. In the webinar, you're going to say how wonderful passive investing is and how it helps their lives, how they can accelerate their wealth, pay less in taxes, live passively, or live off of passive income. At the end of the webinar, you're going to say, okay, now the next thing I need you to do is schedule a call with me. In this call, in this one-on-one, this is probably the most effective way I've seen to do conversions is actually having a one-on-one call and asking them, the right questions to trigger the response you're looking for. Even here in this call, this one-on-one, your job is not done. At the end of this one-on-one call, guess what you have? You have another call to action. And this call to action right here, this is where you get, this is important, that's why I put a star, that's where you get the money, this is where you get the commitment. This is a one-on-one. If you just have a one-on-one, hey, tell me about where you are in your investing journey, what's working well for you, what's not working well for you, what are your goals. That's a great conversation. But if you don't get to a point in that conversation where you're saying, hey, would you like to invest? How much would you like to invest? How soon are you looking to invest? If you don't ask that question, if you don't give them a call to action, you're not, even in this stage, you're not going to convert. And so then you get here. Now, so people have said, hey, this is great. I want to invest $50,000, $100,000, $250,000. That's great. Then now you've got their commitment. But to get them converted, another layer of this conversion is now you've got a deal that has come up. And so even when that deal comes up, you got to think of going through this process again. You got to run somebody through all the different stages here to get them to even sign up for that deal. And let me explain how that would work. So you've gone through the conversation here where you said, hey, here I am, I've got this webinar coming up, and people that didn't know I was doing this, they're made aware, or people that I do know that didn't know I was doing this, they're also made aware. So you've got the people who have never seen you before, or they've seen you and didn't know you're doing this, they're aware. Come to my webinar. Share details about your webinar. Okay, now if you're ready, sign up for a one-on-one. We're gonna make a personalized, personal one-on-one. We're gonna look at how this would look for you, and then in that call, I'm gonna get you to give me a commitment. This is a soft commitment. Now, I've got a deal. How do I get that person to consider investing in that deal? I've got to go back to the top of the funnel. I take this person and I run them to the back to the top of the funnel. Because I have to make sure they're aware that I have the investment opportunity. I have to share with them enough information that they are interested in that investment opportunity, and then I have to give them a call to action that says, I'd like you to invest. And I guarantee you, you will have to follow up with people. You will have to schedule one-on-ones. You will need to engage with these people, and you will have to get on the phone, send them text messages, and get them to do that investment. So the marketing funnel is basically all of your efforts to raise capital revolves around this marketing funnel. And then the last layer here in the marketing funnel, this is the loyalty. And the same process applies here, but once somebody has been an investor with you, what you'd like to do is get referrals from them. So the best time to get a referral is after you've given a distribution, when things are going good. And so now you've got someone who got a distribution, and you can even think of the same marketing funnel. Hey, this is working. You give them a distribution, and then you're going to reach out to them, and you're going to say, hey, I'd like to see if you know anybody that might be interested in this. And then that new person that they would reach out to, you're going to run them through the same process because they don't know anything about you. So, all right. So this is the core framework right here, is really the marketing funnel. You've got to understand this marketing funnel, and your efforts, your activities, the things that you do to raise capital, you should be able to tie them all back into each of these varying stages. So your assignment here is to just, if you're already raising capital and you're not aware of the marketing funnel, go back and see where your efforts are. And if you can't clearly tie them to a specific piece of the funnel, then you need to get more clear on that. So the next video, I'm going to be talking about the customer journey, and that's really understanding how to move someone through this funnel. I've given you a high level overview of this, but the customer journey is really a deeper understanding of how someone would move through the funnel, or why someone would even want to move through the funnel. So I'll see you in the next video.